New music discovery series. Your home for new music discovery.
And there's going to be flutes playing and trombones and flowers and garlands of fresh herbs, and we will dance.
With your host, Brock Tessendori.
Guaranteed best time you can have with your clothes on. Although, it's better with your clothes off.
What's up, brother?
I'm chilling, bro. How are you?
Dude, I'm so good. Life's just so beautiful right now, man. It's just things are so great.
Hell yeah, dude. Good to hear. Yeah, I made like $36 at my restaurant job today that I just got, and I was like, it's a beautiful day outside. So I'm gonna focus on the positives because goddamn, bro, like
You're like, we got a project dropping in a few days. I'm just gonna look at all the bright side of things right now. Let's do it.
I'm like, maybe I'll earn $36 this month from streams if we're doing really well. Yeah, that's just how it is right now.
What's the restaurant?
It's this place called Cooper's Hawk. It's like a winery. I don't drink wine though, so it's like I don't know. Money's good. I got a friend that works there, like a roommate from college. So I moved back home from Nashville to start saving money to like really invest into this project. Yeah, so far it's going interesting. Some days it's awesome. Some days are like today where it's like, why did I do that? But long term it'll probably work out.
You're like, there's so many things I could do to make $36, but you know what? Long term it'll be worth it.
Exactly. And I'm probably never gonna make this little money on a shift again ever. So like just crossing my fingers. Like
Well, now you have every excuse in the world to drink as much wine as you want and learn about it. Just learn all your palate and your flavor. That's
exactly.
That's all about.
Mm-hmm.
Where's you said you moved back home. Where's home for you?
Home is outside of DC. I'm in Northern Virginia, in like I guess Chantilly, like the little subdivisions called South Riding. So it's a very like not square, but a lot of government jobs, a lot of government contracting jobs. So music is not really a sought after career path. Most musicians I know left to either go to like New York, LA, and Nashville, or another like adjacent-ish city to kind of pursue everything. But we all kind of maintain contact throughout that. So it's been interesting to see where people go and end up. But generally, it's not here unless you're trying to do something like save some money,
Yeah, absolutely. Did you go out to Tennessee to go to school, or what took you there originally?
Yeah, I went to school in Richmond for a year at Virginia Commonwealth University, or VCU. And that was a cool experience. Richmond's a dope city. They got a bunch of murals everywhere. It's like a very artsy area. So that was a really cool place to exist for a little bit, but the program wasn't for me. And I heard good things about Belmont. So I ended up applying there and transferred out there because it was in Nashville. And I was like, well, if I hate the school, at least I'll be in Nashville, and then I don't have to like finish school and then go there. I can just like
Silver
two
lining.
birds, one stone. Exactly. So I went out there. The program was actually awesome. Like I was kicking and screaming through college for like the first half, but the second half it really like clicked, and I was like, oh, this was like a good use of time and money, and made a lot of great connections, and really got the music career kicked off pretty well out there. And Belmont's an awesome school. Like there's definitely. It's a college, so it's not a perfect institution, but the resources and the musicians there are just so top tier and phenomenal. And I got to do so many cool things in school that most musicians would kill to do like 5 years into the career. So it was a huge blessing and privilege.
Fuck yeah, man. I actually was scrolling through, like, I went through RAWHONEY's Instagram and your Instagram, and I was just kind of looking at pictures, and I saw that you had posted a caption. You were like, I'm so, like, just, stoked for the experience that I had during my time here. Like, you were saying how you had got to go on tour, but also had like a really cool, insight into music and learned a lot more about it. So I thought that was really cool that you're like, holy shit, I see some real true value from this beyond just, going to, getting a degree, for example.
Yeah, there were definitely some moments where I was like, why am I going to a hip hop class where I gotta write a 7-page single-spaced paper? Mind you, this is an elective. But then there were other moments where it's like, I'm taking a class on emotional intelligence with Haley Williams' mother right now. Like, that's crazy,
That's
So
sick.
good with the bad. It just teaches you to be appreciative of what's around you and really like seek the good out in things.
For sure, man. I'll never forget my. I think it was my junior or senior year of college at Long Beach State. I had a final, and it was my class was the history of hip hop, and I got to give a final on a God, it was a Big Crit. I don't know. It was an old hip hop rapper. I just remember like I was giving my presentation. I'm like, this is the coolest shit ever. I'm literally presenting on a OG hip hop artist. Like how cool. Like, it's also crazy that I'm paying to be here, but also how like what a cool experience.
Where else are you gonna do that, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I was taking the one that we had at Belmont was like it was really focal on Jay-Z specifically. But man, I don't remember the book. But the first week we had to read like a 400-page book on like the entire history of hip hop from like starting in like the clubs of New York in like the late 70s, and then how like there was this blackout and then like a bunch of people stole DJ equipment, and then all of a sudden there's a new genre, and like all these artists have access to this gear that was like too expensive, but now it's there, and now people are making the art, and all of a sudden it's like the biggest genre in the world in the late 2010s. It's like it's so sick to be able to understand the history behind it, you know?
yeah, to be able to like pinpoint a place in time or like an event that occurred that changed like pivoted like the path of music essentially, which is so cool.
Yeah, it's dope. It teaches you how to like form a genre too, which is like that's some valuable knowledge, you know?
Well, and I could tell you learned a little bit in that book because we'll get into it, but obviously you guys, you teeter a fine line between lots of genres, so which I love, dude. Um,
Indeed we do. Yeah.
well, I'll kind of kick it off so we kind of get some stuff start recording. But Ryan, thank you so much for being here, dude. I'm so absolutely stoked to have you. I was on Spotify and I was looking through like my Discover Weekly playlist, I think, and one of your guys' songs, it was kind of sober, came on, and I listened to it. And like the first 30 seconds, I was super captivated. I was like, this is so fucking good. Like, who are these guys? And I click it, and you guys have like 2,800, 3,000 monthly listeners at the time. I think now you're up to like almost 4,000 or whatever. And I was like, holy shit, these guys are so talented. I was like, I gotta hit these dudes up. I want to chat. I want to figure out what's going on. So I really appreciate you being here, dude.
Yeah, for sure. And thank you for the kind words. Yeah, the we're a small band right now. Like we're recording nerds, so that definitely helps on the studio side of things. Like, dude, I love my gear. Like I'm still kind of a baby when it comes to producing and like knowing all that stuff, but I am genuinely so infatuated by everything that goes into like creating a song digitally, and like just obsessed with the fact that we're in like an age where I can just make something that's high quality on my MacBook with my friends, and it like we can put it out and things like this happen. So it's dope that we made that connection, and you shout out the Spotify algorithm for actually like doing its job and like pushing us out, because I know when you're a small artist, like sometimes it's just throwing you into like the trenches. But for us, we're really lucky, and we're not in that position right now. So
For sure, man. It's incredible. I think it helps too. So I'll just tell you, I grew up like a hardcore straight edge kid, but I grew up in a super small little town. It's all my parents loved country, so I listened to country music. My little brother was a diehard hip hop fan, still is, and so I was really into hip hop as well. And so I like have this crazy mix of like pop punk and country and hip hop and rock and all this stuff. And so my algorithm just like it just must have perfectly lined up to where Raw Honey popped up, and I'm like, dude, I have to talk with this kid. Like these kids are fucking killing it. And I actually texted my wife. I sent a screenshot. I said, mark this day. I think I sent it to her like 3 weeks ago. And I said, these kids right now have like 2,900 followers. I'm telling you right now, they'll be at 2 million in the next year. I'm telling you right now. I was just like spitballing. Like, these kids are too fucking good.
dude, fingers crossed, and I appreciate that a ton, man. It really does mean the world and helps us keep going with the motivation aspect of everything.
Heck yeah, man. Well, I'm hoping any way we can help get some more ears and eyes on your guys' stuff. I sent it to a couple buddies, and they're like, dude, these kids are good. So hopefully they're still running the streams up a little bit. So,
Dude,
um,
yeah, thank you.
of course, man. I guess first question, let's jump into it. Kind of tell us about how Raw Honey came to be.
Dude, yeah. Okay, so I actually started as a drummer mainly. I really wanted to play guitar when I was a kid. Like I remember the first thing that I ever like asked my parents for was a guitar, and I like begged like relentlessly. And so they gave me this like little first act guitar. Like I don't know if you've seen it, but it's like it had these like touch sense little buttons, and there were like 12 of them, and then you would like strum with your thumb, but it wasn't an actual instrument. It was just like this $60 little like electric thing, and it was like an SG shape and whatever. And it had like classic rock songs in there that you could learn, but it wasn't an actual guitar. And I was like, yo, that's not, I mean, thank you, but like also, this isn't a guitar. This is like a toy. And they were like, we'll see if you like gel with it, right? So I sat with it for a bit and it was interesting, but I was like, man, I really wish this was like an actual guitar. And by the time I think I was like 3 or 4 when that happened. When I'm 5, I start kindergarten and my mom wanted us to do some sort of extracurricular, and I wasn't big into sports. I was not good at them. I was not very competitive. I think I scored like 1 goal when I was playing soccer, and my parents were like, yeah, nope. All right, we're not doing that. So I was like, can I play guitar? But they had signed my brother up for guitar lessons, and they didn't want us fighting or competing with each other. So they were like, you can play drums. And my dad played drums like coming out of college for a little bit. So he like worked with my grandpa, and they like got a little first act kit set up for me. And I went into a lesson, and it wasn't like an extension of my body or anything. Like it didn't come super duper naturally, but it wasn't super challenging for me to start getting the coordination. And, I played the little like first drum beat, and my parents were like, oh, okay, like this works with your brain. Cool. And so I started taking drum lessons. And then from there, I was really interested in bass at like the end of elementary school. So I started teaching myself out of like a little book. And then eventually, like when middle school rolled around, I started doing like brass, and then guitar showed up eventually because my brother had stopped playing. So I was just like, one day I walked into his room and I was like, I'm going to take this and I'm going to go to ultimateguitar.com and I'm going to figure this out. And from there, it just kind of skyrocketed. And, high school rolls around and I start getting really into like, I grew up on like pop punk. Like that was my thing. It was like, elementary school was like, dude, it was all like the Radio Disney music, and like Hot Shell Ray was like a huge one, and like All American Rejects. And then I got really into like All Time Low and like The Main, and like Sleeping with Sirens was like a huge one at the end of middle school. So I started like walking the line into heavier music as just like a fan. And in high school, I went to this show, and it was like the lineup was so weird, dude. It was like I think it was Broadside, Knuckle Puck, Wage War, and Issues. Oh. And that was the lineup. And it was like a one-off festival. And I love all of those bands. Like I have a tattoo for Broadside, and like a tattoo for Wage War, like all that stuff, right? And this was like my canon event, bro. I was like, oh my God, pinnacle. All these bands. I just like, my YouTube algorithm is in front of my eyes. I have to go. So like I grabbed my dad and my sister, because I can't drive at that point. We go all the way down to Richmond and see this show, and it was just like phenomenal. Every band was crushing it, and it was like this no nicotine festival. And I remember the singer Knuckle Puck is talking about like, we want to say no smoking, and like I don't know if those dudes like smoke cigarettes, but they do smoke weed. So I remember like their guitarist Nick is like, except blunts, and like the room's dead fucking silent. And there's like 1,500 people there, and like the promoters are just like,
don't
and
do
it's
that
just
again.
like so awkward. And they're like, we're gonna play this next song, and I was like, I love bands. I want to do that. Like this is my thing. I ended up getting connected with one of the guys in Wage War a little bit later, and started taking guitar lessons from him just on like FaceTime. And that's when I really started taking guitar like super duper seriously, and that really got like my metalcore chops up, and got me really invested in like the Warped Tour scene and like everything about like late 2010s metalcore. And from there, started going to college. I was like, I got to pick either guitar or drums. I felt like there was more money to be made playing drums, so I focused on that for a little bit. Ended up going to school at Belmont after transferring, and when I got to Nashville, TikTok had just started really, really popping off and everything, and I ended up getting connected with a few dudes there. One of them, named John Harvey, ended up taking me on my first tour. And then through him, I met people like Knox and like Josh Manuel, who used to play in Issues. And he's like my favorite drummer ever. So when I got the Harv tour, it was so cool, because I was like, oh my God, I'm like filling in for Josh. Like, this is crazy. And that really got my chops up. And I was in college at that point, and I was only in school to like become a professional musician. So this whole thing coming together, like, I really believe in John's music, and it was just a great way to get introduced to the road. So we went out on tour with Charlotte Sands, and I was like the youngest person there. I was like 20 when that happened, which was like such an honor and such an eye-opening experience to the rest of like the music industry and how it works. But I also became very comfortable very quickly. And I was also running tracks and everything. So each night I'd set up like the whole rig with the show and, you know, go through the show file. And I love my little recording nerd stuff. So each day I'd kind of pick apart a little piece of it and analyze like, oh, this is how you put together like a show file, or like, oh, okay, we've got like MIDI automated tune changes and whatever. This actually isn't that complicated. And it's like a super gate kept thing. It's probably not that impossible for me to like build shows for bands and stuff. And Harv and I became pretty tight on that tour. And each night I'd see the way that he was interacting with the crowd on stage. And I loved playing drums, but I kind of realized doing that whole run, I was like, oh man, I think my brain actually works better like leading a band. And I wasn't much of a vocalist at the time, but I was like, if I could learn how to sing, I would be so in love with performing and be able to like implement everything I know about drums and guitar and recording and being an artist and like interacting with crowds and all of it. Like, I think that's where my purpose sits as a musician. And so I started writing songs with a couple friends, and eventually through a lot of just really, really weird life circumstances and events, we ended up with what became the first EP, and the first song we released off of that was More Messed Up, and we had no idea how it was going to do like at all, but I think it got like 10,000 streams in the first month, which is like, it's not a big number, but it's not a small number. Like that for a first release, that's definitely something where, you know, I think there can definitely be like a lack of humility with streaming numbers, because it is so easy to just like diminish like a million streams to like 1M, you know, or whatever. Like it, like social media and like the way it's quantified in every, really every aspect of it, like through stats and like management and like A&R and all that stuff on the label and business side of things. Like it can be really easy to diminish the fact that it's like a million people have like streamed your song, you know? So when a number like 10,000 is thrown out there, it's like, whoa, that's like,
1,000 people.
that's a big number, dude. That's like, you know, we're looking at like Red Rock's capacity. If you think about it like that, like that's a big accomplishment. And from there, we kept developing the sound and just kept releasing stuff, and it seemed to work in our favor pretty well. And we really hit the gas on the band. And right now, membership, it's me and our drummer, Mitch Gorman, but he does a little bit more than drums. He also plays guitar, plays bass. He's incredible at drum. Like, I mean, I went to college for drums. Mitch is like this world-class musician. Like, I will die on the hill that he's like top 50 alive. And like, that's a crazy statement if you haven't heard or seen him play, but like, listen to the record, bro. I'm not playing that shit. Like, I can't. It's crazy, bro. He's like Tony Royster Jr. mixed with like a metalcore drummer. It's awesome. And he's also been doing all of the mixing on all of our rock stuff. And he's just a very accomplished musician, audio engineer. Great addition to the team that we have as the band RAWHONEY. So we're each kind of filling a ton of roles. Like, I'm kind of in charge of all the songwriting and guitar and synth, whether it's collaborating or programming it myself, and like production. He does bass, he does drum tracking, he does mixes. And then we fill a lot of each other's gaps. So it's a really interesting setup, but I think it's a great example of how bands post-COVID can really thrive with like the economic environment that we're in. I know that was like a huge long-winded answer, but I don't really have a different one. Like that's RAWHONEY for you.
No, I was actually going to tell you that actually explains like so much to me for the reason why like your guys' product that you're putting out and the art you're making like just sounds so good and so high quality, because you can tell you guys like, you know, your shit, you know, like you're not just, you know, a couple kids like that are just like making music like just, you know, for fun. Like you guys understand music to the full extent. And so you can just tell, like you can hear it in the music, dude. Like it just, like that's why when I clicked on your guys' page, I assumed in my mind like, oh, these kids have to have 500,000 monthly listeners. I'm like, there's just no way it's anything less than that. And so you can that your entire story. I promise it wasn't long. It actually explains so much. So thank you.
Yeah, of course, and I appreciate that a lot. Seriously, it means a lot that our stuff is perceived as of that high quality, because I mean, we really do work as hard as we can to like make art that we're super duper proud of. And it's really like we talk about this a lot too. Like it doesn't come from any sort of like personal accomplishment realm in like the ego. Rather, I think it's just honoring the art that we want to create and put out into the world. It's more about creating stuff that will build community and impact with listeners. You know, like I want somebody to hear anything from Raw Honey and be inspired as like a guitarist or like a drummer or a vocalist or a producer or an engineer or just a fan of music, you know? Because like there was a point where I didn't do any of these things and they were all learned skills. And I learned from the inspiration that I got from other people that were really like integral in my development as a musician. So to be a part of that is just such an honor. And it's really dope that we're starting to see that come to fruition in real life, you know?
Absolutely, man, and keep going because all the things that you're aiming to achieve, you're doing those things from what I can from a third party view. So keep going, dude. Seriously, it's amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate that a ton.
Yeah, brother. If you walked up to someone on the street to tell them about Raw Honey, what would you say?
Man, if I got like 3 sentences, it would be like, okay, so it's like a day to remember, but instead of being pop punk, it's like that Band Camino, Nashville alt rock sound, and the metalcore is like post 2015. And then there's also like some hyper pop in there. And that's the pitch. Like
You
that's the
like
whole thing.
you fucking nailed it. So my wife's a big Band Camino fan, and I played her your guys' music, and she was like, "This is good. Like this is dope." And I'm like, "Yeah, this is right on track with like right on par for her." It's like that fine line of just like heavy rock with a little bit like it goes a little bit in the metal genre, but it stays in like the Band Camino a little bit and flickers back and forth. I'm like, she's like, "This is the perfect balance."
Dude, yeah, the Band Camino is my favorite band of all time. Like I remember my biggest flex as like a fan of theirs is that I discovered them the day that Try Hard came out. Like I saw them in like a David Cola YouTube video at like Lollapalooza, and I was like, their guitar tone rips. This is so dope. Let me check them out. I look it up, and it's like August 31st, 2019 or something, whenever that thing came out. And I'm like, oh, they dropped today. Cool. And I listened to the full album, and I'm like, this is going to change the way that I approach making music for the rest of my life. I just know that. Like,
Hell yeah.
cool. And like being in Nashville too, they're a Nashville band. So everybody there in like the alt scene, the rock scene, the pop scene, they all recognize they're like, that's a band that you want to be. Like you want to be a band of that caliber. And to be considered in that realm is really such an honor. So thank you.
Yeah, man, of course. Yeah, they're easy like top 3, top 5 in our household. So that was amazing. You said that. That was perfect.
Sweet.
Your first public release came out back in 2023. Since then, what's changed musically, personally, or mentally?
That's a good question. I think so our first release was this song called More Messed Up. I think it came out like spring 2023. And at that point, we had written quite a few songs for the project. Like actually, I think like 4 of the songs on the new EP were written like about a year before that, at least like the initial drafts, right? Now they changed quite a bit over the few years. But I think More Messed Up was the first song that the team kind of got together and we were all like, okay, this has like commercial value. Like this would be an awesome first thing to put out into the world. It's short, it's catchy, it could probably do well on TikTok if we wanted to go that route. And with the time that we're in, I think it's really solid. And so we put that out and it received like a generally like really positive response. And the sound for that first EP was much more in the pop punk realm. Part of it was because I wrote a lot of those songs on tour with John and Charlotte, and they really fit that mold at that time. John is making like a huge sonic shift right now, and it's really cool to see. Like he went from like one side of like the rock genre to like the total other, and picked up so many skills along the way. But I think at that point, pop punk was really making its like comeback through things like MGK, and like Knox was doing really, really well at that point too. So I think just kind of subconsciously, we were all tapping into our inner like scene kid. You know, for me, I grew up loving All Time Low and like Mayday Parade. So I was really, really tapping into that stuff. And Taylor Swift was having her big comeback too. So I was really analyzing that. And I love Taylor Swift. Like anything like pre 2015, I'm like, that's my shit, dude. Like
Thank you.
no
for
hate
saying
on the post 2015
2015.
stuff. No hate on that stuff for real, but I think everything before that really like that was such a crucial time for me as like a developing child because I'm 22, so like I was in elementary school when that stuff was peaking, and I mean, dude, it was everywhere, like everywhere you went, elementary school, gym, like radio in public, Radio Disney before they shut it down and everything, like that was what was fed to us, you know, and like I mean, I just love that brand of like pop rock. So that was kind of the sonic area that we inhabited initially. I think as the project has developed and I've kind of established more of what I want to bring to the table as like a songwriter and the main brand behind the creative vision, I've wanted to shift it more into a territory that's a little more original, you know, that pushes a few more boundaries. And you always hear artists talk about how like genres aren't going to be a thing in 10 years. And I've heard that quote from like 5 different people and like 5 different like podcasts or interviews or whatever. And it's a totally valid thought. But every time I hear that, I'm like, man, why does it have to be 10 years from now? Like, why can't we just do that right now? And I think like trying to be forward thinking with a creative vision, we've really sat down with this project and been like, okay, what can we do that's going to keep it like in the realm of people that are fans of the band and not completely alienate them, while at the same time doing stuff that like we've heard before but we've also never heard in the same package before. And we picked kind of 3 artists for this next project to really base the vision off of. For me, I think songwriting wise, a huge inspiration, and vocal production wise, huge inspiration is Chelsea Cutler. She's one of my favorite artists ever. I would kill to collaborate with her, dude. Like she's just top of the line, like one of the best artists I've ever discovered. I love the way that she goes about releases and organizing her music and being authentic in the songwriting. I could talk about this for years. I recently, like, man, I was sleeping, bro. I didn't listen to Chase Atlantic until like 2024. Oh. And as soon as I threw on that first record, I was like, I'm a fucking idiot, bro. Like, I've known about this band since like 2017, and I've just never gotten around to listening to it. And so I remember there was one day where I was like running some Instacart. I listened to every album they had that day, all of them. And I was like, dude, fuck. I gotta, like, yeah, seriously. I was like, the production is incredible. I love that they take like the pop rap thing and like put it into like this alternative aesthetic. And I love the vocals, dude. Like the vocal production is just top tier. So those were 2 things that I really focused on. We wanted to keep that Band Camino sound, but I also wanted to expand in like heavier territory. And I'm really like a huge fan of like that post like 2015 metalcore. I know a lot of like OG hardcore kids will be like, that shit fucking sucks. But for me, it's like, that's what I grew up on. And like, yeah. I really like the production on that. I know it's squared out. I know we program all of our drums. I don't give a fuck. It sounds cool. It's fun to mosh to. And like, I want to make something new, you know? So we took kind of all 3 of those elements along with what we had already built and tried to fuse elements of that into every song. Some songs are tapping more into like the pop stuff. Like we worked with Carson Hogan from The Wildlife on I Hate the Ending and The Way You Want Your House, which are 2. I Hate the Ending, actually, like I didn't think that song was going to do super well for us. It's one of our best performing songs to date, and Carson absolutely murdered the production on that. The Way You Want Your House, I think it's such a good like middle of the road track in the album, and like I think the EP will be out by the time this is released, but it's smack in the middle, and it kind of they're like the more dynamic parts of the record where it slows down and you can focus more on like the vocal and the songwriting and like the ear canning and everything. But then you've got songs like Separate and like Medicine 2 where it's just like fucking cinder block on the gas pedal, like we're moshing, we're headbanging. Medicine 2's heavy, bro. Like that shit is, dude. It's 5 minutes long. It goes to double drop G. Like, dude, we were just fucking around at that. Like it ended at like the first breakdown, and then we were like, you know, we haven't put anything heavy out. Low key, fuck it. Like, let's just meme. Let's just go. And it turned into this gnarly breakdown. I remember I sent it to Seth from Wage War, and I was just like, yo, check this out. And he was like, holy shit, bro. He was like, are you the fucking mayor of Rift City now? And I was like, yo, I co-wrote this. So we co-own Rift City, but fuck yeah, dude. Like, this is awesome. So, Yeah, I think we're really trying to do like that a day to remember type thing where we'd be able to fit on a lot of bills. You know, like if we were to go out on a tour with like the band Camino, we'd be able to stick out but also fit the audience. But then if we were to go out on tour with like a band like Spirit Box, it would be like, oh shit, this is cool. You know, like I kind of want to be like the black sheep band on each tour, and this was like our first step into like, let's make a body of work that's really gonna establish that trajectory for us.
Absolutely. It sounds like a little bit. Have you listened to Bill Murray?
Yes, I love Bill Murray.
Yeah, I'm a like probably my in my top three for sure. But I see them on bills now, and they're playing with everybody. I mean, they're playing with across. They're playing like heavier metal shows. They're playing hardcore shows. They're playing more like the pop punk scene too. Like they're just like you said, they're checking all those boxes. So, you guys are again. I'm gonna keep giving you praise, dude. Like you're accomplishing all those goals, dude. I'm gonna keep saying it over and over again.
Thank you, bro. And dude, fun fact about Bill Murray. Reese, their guitar player, plays with John sometimes. So him and I have run a bunch of shows together, and he actually he gave me like a bunch of the Bill Murray guitar tones that I could use for Raw Honey. So it's like it's all connected, bro. Like, and they're doing some awesome shit right now. Like
Yeah.
they are catching their stride harder than like any other band in the scene right now, and it's so dope to watch because I know Johnny's been working like insanely hard for so many years through so many bands, and like they've earned that shit, bro. Like they're really doing something special. And yeah, like we want to be in the same realm. I don't think that we're logistically there yet, or honestly artistically there. Like we need to really sit into like the identity that we cultivate through this next project. But they're definitely a band that we look to and we're like, all right, how do we emulate this in our own unique way while honoring what we've built so far?
For sure, man. Absolutely. You kind of touched on it a little bit already, but your sophomore EP, Insane from Exposure, is coming out this week on March 28th. Kind of tell us what we can expect on that project.
Yeah, it's a weird EP. It functions like an album. It's 8 songs. Some people are going to consider that a record. For me, a record is like double digits. That's just how I roll. I know Spotify's going to call it an album. I don't care. That like to me, that's just how it is. It's it's like almost a concept record. Not completely though. Like I'm trying to figure out how to explain it. It pretty much walks through just like my own personal narrative of just like a really negative experience I had in a relationship like 5 years ago at this point. Now, I'll touch on what I said earlier. I didn't start writing songs till I was like, I think 20, maybe 21. It was something that I never really explored until I was in college and around a bunch of songwriters. But the second I started, I was like, oh, I like this clicks with me. Why haven't I been doing this? And I think a big part of it was internally knowing like I don't have that much to write about. Like I'm a child. I'm in high school. Like and there's always like that fear of like you don't want to put out a bunch of songs in high school and then they start doing really well and then your like voice changes or you're like you realize like my writing fucking sucked back then and I have to play all these songs like there's a genuine protection in the patience that came with that decision, and I'm very glad that I waited as long as I did to start because now I can do things like look back on life experiences and figure out what to say in a more eloquent and established way that's a little bit more cohesive with what I can produce sonically. And for this EP, I wanted to really focus on like I said, like a pretty negative experience I had in a relationship that was just like a really crucial point in my own psychological development. And I think the idea behind the record was illustrate a lot of the realities of how just like normal people can end up in those situations. And if you don't have like boundary setting skills or like healthy coping mechanisms, it can really get you in some like fucked situations. And the first record was like really chill and like a little heartbreak, whatever, like high school type EP. This one's like way more serious and like way more real and just like, I mean, we tried to produce out a lot of the songs that were on like the positive side to be like, happy and cheerful and like ear candy and like really really soothing to listen to. But the actual lyrics are like so dark and like so fucked up and like real, which makes it like more dark and fucked up. And I kind of wanted a nice dichotomy, so it wasn't just like, hey bro, are you like good, like, you know?
I love it. What's your favorite track on the EP?
That's a good question. I've been trying to figure this shit out for like a year, and I think it's a tie between Decay and Kind of Sober. I'll say the production on Decay is by far my favorite on the EP. That's the opener. We really tried some different stuff on there, and I think it turned out literally better than everything else on the record. I think the songwriting and the lyricism in Kind of Sober is my favorite.
Okay. I was gonna play right now. Actually, we'll stick with it because I want to make sure I'm sure you kind of prepared some answers for this. So I'll stick with it. But I want to be sure to give everyone a taste of RAWHONEY's sound. So let's kick it off with one of the tracks from the upcoming project called Kind of Sober. Can you tell us about the meaning of this song?
Yeah. Kind of Sober is a weird one. It is pretty much like a first person narrative on my experience in a really bad relationship where the song starts out as kind of like this romantic narrative where it sounds really positive and the first verse is like really, really positive and you're like, oh, it's a love song, sick, you know? But then going into that first chorus, like the line going into it is, it isn't fair that I went insane from exposure. And it's like, oh, there's the title. That's like really fucked up. Wait a second. Like, and then it just shines light on a ton of just really ugly negative details of like stuff that happened there. And I mean, it's all like in the song, you know, but then the second verse is kind of like a play on the first one where it's like same melody, but then it's like, it's all the fucked up details of like things that happened in there. And it goes back into the chorus and then it does the chorus again. And that's the song, you know, it's like it kind of functions like a country song, you know, like I spent a lot of time in Nashville. So that did kind of embed itself subconsciously into everything that I'm doing. But that's a fun one for me. Like, I think everyone's first listen on that song is going to have a large amount of value that you're going to be like, oh shit, like that's dope, you know?
You just explained my experience that day. You guys came up on my Discover playlist. I was like the first 10 seconds, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be like a lovey song. And the next thing I know, I'm like, oh shit, like this is my jam right here. Let's go.
Let's go, dude.
It's especially evident on your newest single, Medicine 2, but you guys really walked, like I mentioned earlier, the fine line of, pop, rock, indie, metal. What bands or artists inspire you guys?
I'm gonna throw 5 out there. Like I said, Chelsea Cutler, Chase Atlantic, the band Camino. Um, this is kind of like a confirmation bias answer, but dude, Spirit Box, bro. That new record, just like everything I love about heavy music and pop music all put into one, dude. That's so good. And then I'll throw a curveball. Polaris, bro. Like, I love Polaris. Like, for the heavy stuff and for like the bouncy riffs and shit, man. Like, that's my shit, bro. I
Okay.
love Polaris.
Hell yeah. I love that. Separate is one of my favorite tracks of yours. The chorus just absolutely, every time you listen, just sucks you in. On top of that, there are a couple of just heavier guitar riffs. What inspired you guys to write this song?
Separate was a fun one. We wrote that with our friend Nick Ubios from Sweet Fruits, and they're like a fucking awesome band out of Nashville. They're pretty new too, but they're making some boundary pushing stuff. Mitch and Nick used to play in this metal band called Lilith Luna, which is another up and coming band out of Nashville. They're also incredible. But I wanted to write like a heavier song, so I called both of them over to my house one day, and I was just like, okay, let's make some heavy shit, but it's also going to be like a pop song. And Mitch has like this baritone guitar that it's in like, we wrote the song in E. I'm going to get like a little music nerdy here. We wrote the song in E, and most of the songs on the first record were in E. And there was like a joke with everybody in the RAWHONEY camper was like, yo, Ryan, can you write a song that's not in fucking E major, bro? Thank you. Like, but this song was in E, and I was like, look, it fucking rips. I'm not changing it, right?
Sorry.
We'll figure it out. So we wrote the whole thing in E. And I remember one day I was upstairs on my laptop in Ableton, just like fucking around with like this free plugin I got. And I found this preset that was like a bunch of like digital sounds, and I was like, oh, like Geometry Dash type shit. Cool. So I literally like put on like the draw mode, and I just like swiped all over my touchpad and just made a bunch of random notes and then shortened them and then like made sure they were in key, and I just played it back. And that's what you hear with that like glitchy little 8-bit intro. That was the sound that came out, and I was like, oh my fucking God.
That
like
is
we just
so sick.
we gotta write around this. So we grabbed the guitar downstairs and just started like chugging on that shit. And we were like, oh my God, what if we made like a really heavy guitar part, but then like really hyper poppy synths and then like Band Camino type vocals? Let's do that.
Hell yeah.
So we just, dude, that song came together in like probably like 3 hours. It was so quick, and it was so much fun. And then we like transposed it down later, and added a couple like really gnarly like periphery type tapping fills on the guitar, and I was like, all right, that's it. I can't play this live if I'm gonna sing. So I had a lot of fun in the studio doing all the tapping shit and whatever. But we were also just like, yo, we're fucking writing ourselves into like a little corner here. This is gonna be like, we're gonna need like a good guitar player live. And luckily we've found the players for that and like made the tabs and stuff and everything. And if there are any guitar players listening, that song is tabbed out and on the internet right now. So if you want to go learn these, you totally can. But yeah, dude, that's Separate. Separate's a really, really fun one. And we played it live for the first time like 3 weeks ago. And we opened with it, dude. It brought this energy to the show that would not have been there otherwise. It was so much fun. I think that's going to be a staple in the set for a long time.
Hell yes. Speak while we're on the topic. What's your favorite thing about playing live?
That's a great question. I'll tell you what, like, if we zoom out of the Raw Honey lens, I've played in a lot of really different live environments. Like doing tour with Harv and everything, playing drums. I was playing drums in this incredible gospel ensemble at Belmont for a long time. And that was crazy. I was around like 50, like the best vocalists I've ever seen in my fucking life. And they're like my age and on stage with me. I was like, I'm not worthy of being here. But then also playing with Raw Honey, where we're a brand new band, dude. We played like that show that we just did was like our 6th show ever, I think. Like, yeah, no, like we're fresh out the gate with this. The one thing that unifies it for me, no matter what you're doing, no matter where you're at, like on stage or in the audience, is even if you're like blissfully unaware of the art that's being performed or created in front of you, like it embodies connection and community, and just being able to see that firsthand is such a joy, and doesn't like I don't see that anywhere else in my life. Like that show that we just did in Nashville, we were playing to like I don't know, like 35 people. Like it was not a big event, but everyone that was there was like into it, and there were like people that knew the words, and like we had our first like circle pit, and I was like, dude, let's fucking go. You can put me in a grave right now because I made that shit happen, bro. It like I was like, that's it, we're good. Like I've done my job on Earth. I made a circle pit. See you guys. Like, but just having like the energy and like being able to see it come alive in front of you, it's like it's kind of like having a garden, you know? Like if you or like planting like let's zoom out. It's like having an orchard, you know, where it's like year 2, you're gonna be like, man, this is like a bunch of sticks poking out the ground. But then in like 20 years, you're gonna be like, yo, this is a forest. What the fuck, you know? Like it's kind of like that, but just with art and people, and it's just something I love about life and observing it, you know.
Yeah, man. And you actually touched on it earlier. You mentioned that you want to like really bring in like a real community of people, and like and like continue to give people that already like your music more of that, but also bring in new people. But like you said, if you have 35 people there that are really into it, that's better than having 1,000 in a room that don't give a shit. You know what I mean? Like if you can get 35 people who truly like are loyal to you and to your like to you guys and your brand and your name and your art, like that's gonna translate to them telling 5 of their friends each, that suddenly turns into 180 people. It's like that's the goal, dude. So I mean I think achieving that and continuing to do that is going to be the difference maker for you guys. So it's cool. It's really cool to hear that, dude.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think those smaller shows, they have moments in them where it's like you're never gonna experience this anywhere else. Like we had a track glitch out because like the bit rate was like incorrect or some shit on like the way I put it in the show file, and my drummer doesn't use Ableton a ton, and that's like a crazy, like you wouldn't know to fix that if you didn't build the show, right? So I like he pauses it, and I like give him all the instructions on like I'm like, so if you double click on that wave file and go to the drop down on the left, it's going to say either complex or pro. If you could change that to beats, that'll probably fix it. And then I instantly turn around and I'm like, where are my Ableton users at? And we're in Nashville. So like 5 people raised their hands. And I was like, this is fucking hilarious. Like this would never happen anywhere else. This is so funny. Like, yeah.
You knew your environment, dude.
Exactly. It's about knowing your audience, bro. But like it's one of those things where I think in a day and age where, especially like with my upbringing in my music career, like going from like drumming for much bigger artists to like diminishing it down to like I have to grow this band from nothing, it can be really discouraging. Like seeing that where I'm like, dude, fuck, like low key, like the amount of respect I have for these artists goes up significantly every single day, every single move I make with this stuff, because you realize like just how fucking hard it is. But at the same time, those moments in front of like 35 people, they're fun. And like the internet doesn't tell you that, like you have to go figure that out for yourself. And if you can like turn that side of your brain off where it's like I should have like 1 million followers or like 200,000 monthly listeners or like 2 million monthly listeners or like whatever the fucking number is, it's like the reality of that is it's never gonna fully satisfy you. And for me, the satisfaction comes from seeing it with my own eyes in real life, not refreshing my Spotify at 12 o'clock Eastern every single day going, oh, look, that went up by 100,
Yep. Hell yeah, man. I love that, dude. Based in Nashville, obviously famously known for, of course, its country roots. Tell us a little bit about the Nashville, like, rock pop scene.
Dude, yeah. It's pretty interesting. There's a lot of music in Nashville, and like you said, country is huge there. Like, there's a lot of country industry there. But I think like the alt pop rock scene, like whatever you want to call it, it is kind of thriving. There are a ton of incredible artists based out of Nashville right now, and we've been so lucky to be surrounded by a ton of them and like working with a couple, like I mentioned earlier, like Carson Hogan from the Wildlife. They're a more established band, but they're still independent and trucking it out. I think they're going out on tour with Knox soon. But there are a couple artists in that umbrella that are just like, they're really doing some groundbreaking shit, and everyone is generally like really supportive of the scene out there. Now it is like one of the big three cities, and it's like the music one, so there can definitely be some competitive aspects about career out there, as there are in any of the places where you condense a bunch of people trying to be in professional music. But I think for the most part, like the appreciation for what's going on and like the collaboration in the songwriting rooms especially is unmatched. And I think most of the great music that we're getting is coming out of Nashville currently in like the alt pop world. I don't know if you know this band In Color. They're like brand new.
I don't
It's like
think so.
Hastings and like a couple other people. They just formed like last month, but like they have one song out. And like everyone in our little scene in Nashville is like, dude, this band is fucking awesome. There's another band that just formed like about a year ago called Southcourt. They're like the same realm. They call themselves like Festival Core, and it is kind of like that Band Camino like umbrella. I don't want to like diminish into that because they do stuff that's a little bit different too.
Hmm.
But they're out there. Is Valley in Nashville? I think they're in Nashville. I don't know. There's a lot of really dope like I call them playlist pop bands out there, because like you find them from like your friend's playlist right now. That's like how they get discovered with where they're on their careers. But they all make incredible music, and it's a really really dope scene, and it's been really cool to be a part of that. And there's like a there's an Instagram account there. I think it's called No Country for New Nashville, and their
Yep.
whole thing is like, fuck country music. We want to showcase the stuff that's not there. And they've featured our music a bunch of times, but like every week they update it, and you can always find some fucking like platinum music on there that probably has like 5 to 100,000 streams, and you're just like, how is this? Like, this is so good, you know? It's
I
like
actually,
it's great music to gatekeep.
yeah, for sure. I actually think I work with a little bit with 1824. I don't know if you heard of them. They're the Universal
Yeah.
Music Group. Yeah. So I think one of
Hmm.
the guys who I've been on the call with before, he actually I think it works with that he like creates that playlist. I think
Oh,
if I
sick.
if
Okay,
I
cool.
remember correctly. So it's just that's again just crazy small world, dude. Um,
Seriously.
this last song called Decay comes out with a new project on March 28th. It's much slower and you can really feel the emotions from start to finish. Was this song written about a real life experience?
Yeah, actually, really every Raw Honey song is like derived from a real life experience, and um, some of them take a little embellishment liberty, but for the most time, I'm not lying. Like, I try to be really authentic with my own songwriting with this band. That's like a really important part of the identity of this project for me, and yeah, Decay is about like, I mean, if I'm keeping it 100. Um, when I was like in just this really unhealthy relationship, and like instead of choosing to like get out of it like a healthy individual with like coping skills, because I was like 18 and like super fucking underdeveloped, and also just like figuring out my life and going to college, and like there's so much pressure at that point in your life. um I was just like fucking, like ripping my cart with my friends and shit and whatever. But also like I used to struggle like pretty badly with anxiety, and I had been prescribed some more serious medication to deal with that. But I started like just abusing that shit along with like weed, and just making my own little like fucked up concoctions of like whatever that was gonna make me feel like a unicorn and go to bed. Which like I'm not condoning that behavior in any capacity, because it's bad and it like fucked up my brain. And that's like what a lot of the record's about. But Decay is kind of like the exposition track where it walks through like pretty much all of it. It was the last song that we wrote for the record. it was actually not supposed to be on the record, but then I showed it to my twin sister, and she was like, "You'd be a fucking idiot to not put this first." And I was like, see, that's why we show each other, like, okay, cool. But yeah, it's a pretty blunt narrative. Like the back half of the chorus is, like, I understate every way I overuse to decay what's left of you, which is like, you know, bars, not trying to, like, you know, stroke my own dick or whatever, but like really proud of that lyric, right? Just because I think like people, like, not even necessarily like addicts, but those who like use any sort of substance, whether you're drinking or smoking weed or doing like drugs or like, you know, anything of the sort, which is like almost guaranteed human experience right there. I think you would feel that, like, even like if you're healthy and moderate with your substance use, even if you're having like an awful day and it's like you're ripping like, you know, 2 12 packs after your shift because it was that bad, and you hear that, you'd be like, damn, I fucking feel that shit. But then if you're also like off the fucking fentanyl, which like I really hope you're not, like, and you hear that, you're gonna be like, damn, he onto something, right?
Yeah.
So I think for people struggling in that realm, or not, just like existing in that realm, I think it'll really speak to them and impact them in a way where it'll allow them to think and ask themselves questions of like, am I overdoing this? Or like a better question, like, yo, like, low-key, why? Because it's everyone's personal journey, and you know, I'd like to maintain like a role model in that aspect where I'm not like condoning the abuse of drugs and substances, while at the same time speaking about my own experiences with that, and you know, like keeping it real, because I think it's important to discuss that, especially because it's so stigmatized. And it can happen to anyone. Like, I don't know, that whole song is a story about like from when I was like 18. You know, when I was 17, I was not anticipating my future looking like that, like at all. I was like, you know, a kid in like growing up in like a really fortunate area, trying to figure out where I was going to college, and like, you know, sheltered from like most of the world. And the second I stepped out of that and I was like responsible for myself, I very, very quickly ended up like down this path that was like, oh, this is one that ends very quickly. I should step off of this, because it's gonna like, it will literally kill me if I don't figure this out. And you know, luckily that's all in the past, and we have moved on, and it's been about 5 years, and life is looking pretty solid. And you know, that's a story of an experience now, and not like a current struggle, which is something I'm super grateful for. But yeah, that's kind of a little background on the story.
I'd take enough to keep this up, but I'm devoid of any meaning. Been so tight as the pain's corrupt. What I perceive when you say I love you, not I'm sorry. I stay high to keep these starry eyes from seeing everything we really are, and everything I lose enables to abuse. You decorate how to help you, and separate subs to self-soothe. I understate every way I use to decay what's left in you. To decay what's left in you. We stray too far from heaven, sleeping under stars.
Where do you see RAWHONEY headed from here? What's next?
Man, I'll be so real. I don't know. I'm excited to see the reaction that we get to this next EP because I do think it is a noticeable step up from where we started. I think that with the work that we've all put into this body of work, I think long term it will age really, really well. And you know, to me, is like Ryan O'Connor, like as a person. It's like this really dope project that I made at the end of college with my friends, and it's cool. But like from an artist perspective, it's like, dude, we just made like a fucking genre blending 8-song EP with a metalcore song. It goes to double drop G. There's like tapping on all but one song on the guitars. Kellen Quinn is there for some reason. Like whoa, how did we do that? You know, and right now, like I'm living in Virginia to like save money and invest in the band. And it's like I'm about to build like an in-ear rig so we can start playing some shows and stuff. I think as soon as we get on the road for real, even if we're just booking like weekenders, I think after hitting that pretty consistently, it will really start to take shape. And I've been told by a lot of people that are pretty invested in the band behind the scenes, like if we get on the right tour, things will really start to snowball for us. And I think we've worked incredibly hard to make sure that that's in the trajectory for the band. So I would love to see that come to fruition. But, you know, if it doesn't happen like that instantly, that's cool. As long as the music impacts somebody positively and I hear and see like the results of that, I'm going to be content and satisfied with it. And I mean, I'm really just kind of leaving it up to God, you know, like whatever's going to happen with it happens with it. And I'm going to be cool with that. And that's where I'm at. And like, I'm still 22, you know, so it's like, I'm young. I got time to see this through. I'm excited to see it through when I'm 30, it'll be really dope to like look back on this era, you know?
Hell yeah, dude. And I genuinely mean this from the bottom of my heart. I hope to God that you guys ride this out because I know for a fact, like you guys have the sound, you have the talent, you have the look, everything is there, dude. Like it's just that perfect little equation. But so I hope that you guys get that opportunity, dude, because you guys, again, I hope my new goal is to get Sacramento on your guys' top 5 most listened cities on Spotify.
Let's go, dude. Let's make it happen.
I'm just fucking running that thing, man. So,
dude, please. I would like to relocate to California as soon as I'm financially stable because I want to really hit those markets and I just want to live in California because that shit's fucking awesome and it's so pretty out there.
Come on out, baby. Let's do it.
Dude, it's gonna be dope. But yeah, we'll hit some West Coast cities like literally as soon as possible. Even if we're playing to like 5 people, I don't care. I want to do it. So.
Hell yeah, let's make it happen. But I really can't thank you enough for doing this, dude. And I'm so excited for the project. I'll do it whatever I can to help push it a little bit here on my end. I know I don't got anything substantial, but I will do whatever I can. And
man, whatever you're doing so far has helped immensely, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart for that. It's seriously like it works. I know, like, I mean, neither of us have like these like life-altering platforms, but they're impactful. Like they're not small. So. All the work that you're doing is seen, recognized, and appreciated. And this is the first, like, really podcast interview, any sort of media that we've done for this band ever. So I appreciate you for making it happen.
We're going to look back on this again. You said, 30? So 8 years from now, we're going to look back at this right here. We'll do this again in 8 years, and we'll keep running it.
Oh, God, that's fucking scary, bro. Like, what, 2032? Oh, God. Yo, all right. Damn. That's a crazy thought. I've never put, like, a number to that.
I'm gonna break some news to you. I'm 32, about to turn 33. So it's a great era though, dude. I love my 30s. I'm having a fucking blast.
Dude, yeah, it's about what you do with it, not the number itself.
Exactly, brother. Well, I appreciate you so much, Ryan. Thank you again a million times over, dude.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, man.
Did you have an awesome time? Did you drink awesome shooters and listen to awesome music and then just sit around and soak up each other's awesomeness?
New Music Discovery Series.